video library of World War II, we'll turn our attention to the Pacific as we explore 4 different facets of the war against Japan. We'll take up the collapse of the historic Burma Road and meet the men who flew the hump, the Himalaya Mountains, to keep China's lifeline open. We'll recount the story of one great battle on one Pacific island that lasted just 4 days and yet has come to symbolize great heroism and tragic cost, Tarawa. Another chapter will deal with 2 winds, the brutal wind of the typhoon and what the Japanese call the divine wind of the kamikaze. Both spent their fury at Okinawa. And we'll go on the bombing mission that ended the war and introduced the atomic age. We begin this survey of the Pacific War with a chapter we call Burma Road and the Hump.
Japan's sweep into Burma removes Free China's only effective connection to the outside world. The Burma Road is now cut. A new supply line must be built from Calcutta to Lido near the Assam airfields in India, then by air across Burma's Himalayan hump to Kunming, China. In Calcutta, supplies for the China-Burma-India Theater, the CBI, are piled up after traveling 12,000 dangerous sea miles from America. They pile up far faster than they can be moved, by river barge, by plane, by outmoded and inadequate railways to the fighting fronts. Not even a box of K-rations can be shipped from Calcutta to Assam in the same freight car. 4 different railway gauges exist, and transfer from wide to narrow gauge cars is by hand. To move 24 drums of gas takes 5 hours. Only 1 electric crane is available for the whole line. Locomotives and rolling stock are depleted. To expedite transfer, trucks are driven from boxcar to boxcar across wooden planking. At the Brahmaputra River, there are no bridges. The cars must be loaded on ferries, and they too are inadequate. After heartbreaking weeks, the freight arrives at airfields in northern India. Here, overworked men and overworked planes strive desperately to start the trickle of supplies flowing to China. In May, the onrushing Japanese capture the key base of Myitkyina in northern Burma. Allied transports must now take a circuitous northern route over the high Himalayas to try and escape the enemy's Zero fighters. These planes across the hump, with their precious cargoes for China, are pioneer covered wagons of the air. They are C-46s and 47s, unarmed, easy prey for Japanese planes on the prowl. Weather is both friend and foe. Clouds offer cover from the enemy, but hide peaks that mount to 24,000 feet. En route, a man passes through the 4 seasons, from tropical heat to blue cold. The average flight takes 5 hours. To the crews, 5 hours is an eternity. Not even the mountains can last forever. To break out of them above the clouds and to drop into the valley of Kunming is a glorious return to earth. Despite the heroic efforts of the hump flyers, supplies arrive slowly. In May 1942, only 80 tons are ferried over. By February 1943, the figure will be up to 3,200 tons, still too little. Every gas drum here has been brought in by air. The beneficiaries of the hump are Chiang Kai-shek's Chinese troops and General Claire Chennault's 14th Air Force, the Flying Tigers. But the pitifully small supplies that get in are scarcely enough to sustain them. And at the other end of the line, in Calcutta and Karachi, the supplies pile up, rot and rust and wait. The overtaxed Sky Bridge cannot handle the load. Another way to China must be found. The Japanese must be driven out of Burma. Then, behind our advancing troops, a road must be built. The Lido Road, from Lido in northern India, south nearly 500 miles to link up near Lashio with the old Burma Road, establishing a land line from Calcutta to Kunming and China's capital, Chongqing. In late 1942, it begins. One of the greatest road-building jobs in history, through country that has to be captured from the Japanese, from itself. This is the cruel land where a road must be built, scratched out and hacked out and blasted out through the malarial jungle. In good weather, the rate is 3/4 of a mile a day. December 1942, this sign marks the road start. The Japanese do not like the jungle, but they have learned to live with it and in it. It is a jungle so thick that whole regiments can pass a short distance from each other without detection. British soldiers called Chindits, Scots, West Africans, Indians, and Gurkhas February 28, 1943. The Lido Road enters Burma at mile 43.02. Right behind the fighting, the bulldozers push ahead laboriously, working day and night to make as much progress as possible before the monsoon begins. Lido Road 47, 3 miles in nearly 3 months, and now everything bogs down in the monsoonal rain and consuming mud. 47 miles built, 431 miles to go. There are still the dead and the wounded. Even during the rains, the former missionary, now Colonel Gordon Seagrave, the Burma surgeon, operates on Allied soldiers. Seagrave, who retreated from Burma with Stilwell, has returned with his native staff. They are among the real heroes of the battle for the road. Difficulties increase for the hump flyers, but in rain-drenched July, 4,500 tons go over. Still, it is scarcely enough to enable General Chennault's fighters in China to defend the transports around Kunming and the city itself. August 15th, 1943, Lido Road, 50.07. Another 3 miles in 3 months. Traffic, even food convoys, can barely move. Everything slides and skids through the dreadful mud. Life is compounded of it, and of rain and mildew and malaria. When the monsoon finally ends in September, the mud remains and has to be disposed of. Native laborers join with the bulldozers to do the job. It is not until October that work on the road can get into full swing again. March 5th, 1944. British and American forces combine in a daring operation. A glider invasion by the Chindits under British General Charles Wingate deep into Burma behind Japanese lines. American Colonel Philip Cochrane, the Flip Corkin of the comic strip Terry and the Pirates, is the glider chief. He confers with Lord Louis Mountbatten, Supreme Allied Commander-in-Chief, Southeast Asia Command. Then Cochrane gives his glider men the word.
Now, is there anything anybody doesn't know? If there is, let's get it straight now. Okay, now just before I came over here, I had our final meeting with the British ground troops that you're going to take in there tonight. And I talked to the guy that's got the red flare that you know is going to be shot off if there's too much interference with the first few gliders at land. And he tells me that flare's in an awful deep pocket, and it's going to take somebody an awful lot of fining to get at it. So, if those guys have got that kind of heart, and they got that kind of guts, it's up to us to get them in there so they can do their job and get them in right. Now, tonight, your whole reason for being, your whole existence is going to be jammed up into a couple minutes, and it's just going to balance it there, and it's going to take your character to bring it through. Now, nothing you've ever done before in your life means a thing. Tonight, you're going to find out you've got a soul. Good luck.
At the left. Jungle Broadway kills 31 men, injures another 30. But even as the wounded are cared for and the dead are buried, a 5,000-foot landing strip is being hacked out. In 5 days, nearly 10,000 men will land here, and the Japanese will soon feel their presence. Early in 1944, following the summit conferences at Quebec and Cairo, Vinegar Joe Stilwell realizes his ambition, returns to Burma to avenge the beating he took. His newly trained Chinese troops, supported by Burmese scouts, now help fight the battle for the road with a drive toward the Japanese strongholds of Mogaung and Myitkyina. Attached to his command are General Frank Merrill's famous Marauders. They marched from Lido to infiltrate the Japanese lines on Stilwell's flank. Planes supply the Marauders, the first American ground combat troops in the CBI, as they march 20 miles a day through the tough Naga Hills. Merrill himself sees to it that the rations reach his men. Merrill's goal is Myitkyina, a key air base. Stilwell's is Mogaum, an important ground target. Aroused, the Japanese launch a counterattack south of the Broadway airstrip into India to take the Indian cities of Impel and Kohima, thus severing Allied supply lines to the Assam airfields. Outnumbered British and Indian forces apply scorched earth tactics as they retreat. The Japanese move onto the soil of India, only 8 miles from Impel. Until reinforcements arrive, Lord Mountbatten's forces, British and Indian, fight a brilliant defensive battle. Transport planes help save the day, dropping food and water, ammunition and medical supplies to the embattled, surrounded troops. British garrison holds out for 13 days on Parachute Hill, but the Japanese have overextended themselves. After 2 bitter months, they began to withdraw their troops from India. Now American and Chinese attacks in North Burma are stepped up. In May 1944, Merrill's men take the Myitkyina airfield. It will be another 78 days before Myitkyina itself, 2 miles away, is captured. Under fire, the Marauders quickly prepare the field for transports. The capture of Myitkyina by Merrill's Marauders is Stilwell's greatest victory. It relieves the pressure over the hump, enables planes to fly an unmolested direct route to Kunming. But the ground route, the Lido Road, 164 miles built in June 1944, 314 to go, still must be finished. It's no longer all jungle. Existing roads from Myitkyina on can be improved, but the big problem is to get a suitable rock base. Gravel is in short supply, and hand-picked stones plus mud have to be used. North of 1945, Lido Road completed. From zero at Lido to the old Burma Road junction. 478 miles has taken 2 years, 23 days to build. Beyond this, 566 miles of Burma Road leading to Kunming. The new overland route will be renamed the Stilwell Road, although General Stilwell has been fired because of his differences with Chiang Kai-shek. The first convoy, led by Engineer Chief General Lewis Pick, rolls off for China. Overhead, transports are now flying 45,000 tons a month to China. Ironically, the air bridge will continue to carry far more tonnage than the Stilwell Road during the remaining half year of war. February 4th, 1945. After a 28-day trip, the first convoy reaches Kunming and receives a glorious, wild reception. The battle for the road is won. The road above and the road across Burma to victory.
Burma was but one of the distant battlegrounds that sprawled across the vast Pacific and Far East theaters of the war. Much of the land-based action in the Pacific was fought on islands which became stepping stones toward Japan. One battle site, remembered for the fierceness of the fighting there, was Tarawa. Helping us tell the story of that bloody campaign are then Colonel David Shoup, the man who commanded the United States Marine Assault Forces, and Kiyoshi Ota, one of only 17 survivors out of the 4,500 Japanese troops who defended the island of Baishio, which was part of the Tarawa Atoll.
November 1943. From all over the Pacific come the ships which make up the newly formed Fifth Fleet. It is the most powerful naval force ever assembled under one flag, and its full power is to be leveled against the Japanese-held islands of the Central Pacific. First objective, Tarawa. But Marine General Holland M. Smith, sharing command of the 5th Amphibious Force with Admiral Richmond Kelly Turner, feels that the fleet will not be enough. He knows that the tides around Tarawa are unpredictable. Low water could trap regular landing craft on the island's treacherous reef. General Smith demands new amphibious tractors, Amtraks, finally meets Admiral Turner's reluctance with an ultimatum: no Amtraks, no operation. Although in scarce supply, the Amtraks are provided. To the veteran Marines of the 2nd Division goes the Tarawa assignment. They already have been through the fire of Guadalcanal. They know about Pacific Islands. The long-awaited thrust of Japan zeroes in on the Japanese-held Gilbert Islands. Objective, seize them for a stepping stone along the island road to Japan. Tarawa and its key island, Baishio, must be captured by landing on these beaches. General Shoup recalls those last hours before Tarawa, codenamed Helen.
The time for the operation and the capture of this island had come. Our training was finished, and we were close by. This particular island of Baishio was one in which the 2nd Marine Division was supposed to capture in 1943. It was one of the most heavily defended islands that we had ever been able to imagine. Some of the destroyers who were going to help us with their naval gunfire got inside into the lagoon. Other battleships took positions in varying places to pour their shells upon this island.
D-Day morning, November 20th, 1943. The barrage is temporarily lifted so that carrier-based planes can make their strike. Faulty communications cause a misunderstanding. The planes are late, 20 minutes late. They hit hard, but the Japanese have gained vital time to regroup. The Marines have been promised an obliterated island. 2.5 hours of bombing and shelling, it is felt, will finish Beishio, leave any survivors groggy and demoralized. Kiyoshi Ota was one of those survivors.
日本からの援助は全然ないために
Since we were unable to get any help from Japan, all of us made up our minds that we would fight to the death. I ordered my soldiers not to fire until the landing crafts approached within 200 meters. I thought we wouldn't be able to destroy the great power of the enemy unless we caught them on the beach and destroyed them there at once. Tragically, the unpredictable tide stays low. Many boats become stalled targets on the reef. Only the Amtraks have a decent chance of making it. At 1100, Colonel Shoup lands.
The troops were edging ashore, having difficulty getting to the beach. These Japanese were fanatical. They ran down to the beach and threw hand grenades into the Amtraks. Marines would throw them back. One lad with an arm already off picked up a grenade and threw it back at the Japanese from his amphibian tractor. This was no time for being boys. Men went after men in a manner unheard of in my lifetime.
By noon, not only Colonel Shoup, but Sergeant Ota realizes how close the infighting is getting. A group of American soldiers landed quite close to my foxhole. Under this foxhole, the American soldiers hid themselves, and we could not fire at each other.
I established a command post alongside a blockhouse built by the Japanese. In this blockhouse, there just happened to be 26 live Japanese. They were making plenty of noise and finally threw a hand grenade out of the air vent. It didn't go off. We fixed this for the future, however, by taking boards, wire, and tin, and making ourselves an arrangement whereby if they tried to do this trick again, we would be warned.
"1,500 Marines, many wounded, are now ashore, nailed down under a blazing tropical sun. As mounting casualties stain the water along red beaches 1, 2, and 3, their code names take on an ominous meaning. With the tide still down, no supplies are coming in. Equipment and dead lie strewn on Tarawa's terrible beach with its jutting pier, once the site of Japanese privies. Everything, water, ammunition, plasma, men, is running out. To Marine General Holland M. Smith, a message: need more men.
For us ashore, by this time, with both God and the United States Navy in direct support, there was never any question about us winning the battle. However, there was to be about 76 hours of haggling over the exact price we were to pay for it.
American soldiers, we had been told, could not see in the dark, so we decided to work at night, and Japanese soldiers hid themselves during the daytime and moved through the island when it got dark.
During this time, the Japanese cut sections from our communication wire, which had cost us lives of Marines to lay. They used this wire to tie themselves in the tops of palm trees, from which the next morning they shot back at the Marines. I had gotten the division commander to assign to me a part of his reserve, another landing team. It's understandable that with the meager information that I could get out to the flagship, that they were quite concerned as to the progress we were making. In fact, whether we were successful or not.
On the morning of D-Day +1, the division reserve prepares to land. The beach is choked with ruined equipment. It is strangely quiet. The reserves can't possibly know that this apparently abandoned wreckage is alive with Japanese. During the night, they have silently infiltrated these burned-out tanks and half-submerged boats. Navy planes streak to the rescue, but before the snipers are bombed out, the reserves lose more men than any battalion that landed on Tarawa's D-Day. The Marines have been warned that against Japanese bayonets, their only armor is a khaki shirt. They learned the truth of this on Guadalcanal, and now on Baisio they exercise the caution of professionals. At 0852, Colonel Shoup radios, imperative you land ammunition, water, rations, and medical supplies on Beach Red 2 and evacuate casualties. And a little later, situation doesn't look good ashore. Finally, at noon on D-Day +1, a miracle. The tide rises. These men will receive reinforcements. By late afternoon, the 6th Marines make it over the reef for the first landing on Beach Green. As fresh troops help expand the beachheads, Colonel Shoup radios, casualties many, percentage dead not known, combat efficiency, we are winning. The night of D-Day +2, the desperate Japanese have to make a final decision. Banzai. Our commanding officer encouraged us to destroy our enemy. We were told that our lives were in his hands and we shouldn't expect to come out of this alive.
This was really the end of the battle, although we had many more hours battle with small groups to completely take the atoll.
At that time, I really wished that I could die as soon as possible. Then, as it got lighter, American tanks approached my foxhole, and I could hear the Marines whistling. Throughout D-Day +3, the Marines pushed their way down the island. The dug-in Japanese must be literally dug out. Even in defeat and disorder, the Japanese continue to fight viciously as they fall back down the narrow island. Stubbornly, the Marines drive through to the island's tip. Baishio's airstrip, the prize of the island, has fallen. By early afternoon, 475 Japanese have been killed in the 2-mile advance. On D-Day +4, Baishio is secure. Of 4,500 Japanese troops, only 17 survive. With them are 129 Korean laborers. Every Japanese commissioned officer, including the island's commander, Rear Admiral Keiji Shibasaki, has been killed. Master Sergeant Kiyoshi Ota becomes the highest-ranking survivor. Captured in a dugout, which Marines have blasted with grenades and flamethrowers, though wounded, he miraculously lives. They put me in a small landing craft and took me to a big ship which seemed to be a freighter. A bed was given to me, and there I saw an American who seemed to be a Catholic or a chaplain. He said, "Please do not worry, you and I are good friends. The bad one is not you, but Japan's Tojo." I was so impressed with his kindness and was willing to accept his words. Before that, I tried to commit suicide several times by cutting my tongue out or hanging myself with the sheet of the bed. But with his warm sympathies, I made up my mind to be cooperative and go to the prison camp.
米国の捕虜収容所に収容されたのであります。
Reported dead after the battle, Ota returns to Japan at the end of the war to find his own well-tended grave. For the Marines, it is not a war that is over, just a battle. This island, the Japanese declared, could not be taken with 1 million men in 100 years. The Marines have taken it in a little less than 4 days. But island footage is expensive, and in the wreckage of Baishio, over 1,000 Marines and sailors are dead, more than 2,100 wounded. Almost alone, Marine General Holland M. Smith felt that Tarawa was unnecessary. Most agree that there had to be a Tarawa. It was an airstrip, a lesson for the amphibious assaults to come, but most important, it was a beginning in the Central Pacific. For General Shoup, it has special meaning.
At the end of the battle, I also wrote words like this: the naval gunfire and bombing were the reason for our success. Without naval gunfire, we could not have taken the island. It did not do what we had hoped it would do completely, that is, obliterate it so we could walk ashore without trouble. But it did tear up the communications of the enemy so that he could not get his troops together and give a counterattack us during that first fateful night. The reason this battle was won was that these great American men were determined that their nation would not go down in defeat.
A year and a half after Tarawa, the American forces found themselves at yet another island, now much closer to Japan. This one is called Okinawa. More than 12,000 Americans were killed in the battle there, 1/3 by kamikaze suicide planes. The Japanese pilots were barely beaten back when nature dealt the crushing blow of a giant windstorm. We call this story Typhoon at Okinawa.
By March 1945, the Japanese Empire is crumbling. Now the target is to be the very doorstep of Japan, Okinawa. The landings will be here, 325 miles from the home islands. But first, softening up from the air, then bombardment by the greatest naval armada in history. After 7 days of naval bombardment, Marine and Army troops head for the beach. This is D-Day, April 1st, Easter Sunday. There is no return fire from the shore. Where are the Japanese? Says one soldier, I've already lived longer than I thought I would. 60,000 men are put ashore the first day. Cautiously, they push inland as far as 3 miles, poking about for the Japanese. But where are they? mid-morning of D-Day, the Americans reach the first main objective, Yontan Airfield. Troops approach it carefully behind amphibian tanks. They meet with the first signs of enemy activity, sabotage squads, and snipers, which are quickly overcome. In one day, the Americans advanced 3 times faster than expected. They do not know that the main Japanese force lies waiting to the south. Its mission, to hold off the invader until the American fleet has been destroyed from the air. The kamikaze, young suicide pilots, some mere teenagers, are ready to strike. They know they are off on their last mission. They represent the final expression of Bushido, the Japanese warrior code. The ceremonial drinking of sake symbolizes their devotion to their emperor. The kamikaze are the human counterpart of the divine wind, a typhoon which in the 13th century destroyed the Mongol fleet of Kublai Khan and saved Japan from invasion. Now in the 20th century, the name Divine Wind, kamikaze, has been given to these pilots. Each carries a 250-kilogram bomb wired fast to his plane. His job, to hurl plane, bomb, and self at the American invader. April 6th, D-Day +5. American warships lying 10 to 50 miles offshore have been alerted. Radar picks up the approaching enemy. There will be 355 suicide planes, the greatest kamikaze effort of the war. The word goes out quickly to all ships, and from the carriers, the American interceptors take off to meet them. Each kamikaze has one goal, to get an American ship. Most of them miss or are shot down, but the fanaticism of mass suicide pays off, and many ships are struck. Types of ships are vulnerable as the kamikaze keep up their attacks. April 12th, April 16th, through mid-May and into June. They will last for the whole 3 months of the Okinawa campaign. I doubt, writes naval historian Samuel Eliot Morison, whether anyone could fully appreciate the desperate fury of the kamikaze corps unless he were present. By now, the situation on land is also becoming critical. The Americans have run up against the main Japanese line. Japanese are securely entrenched in heavily fortified caves and bunkers, some 3 stories deep in the ground. Flamethrowers and TNT charges must be used to get them out. Japanese who are not killed are burned and stunned. To the Japanese, death is a victory of the spirit, capture a disgraceful rejection of the warrior's code. For the Americans, the battle continues. A group of Japanese is caught in the open. Tracers seek them out. Each foot of ground the Americans take is now won painfully and at a heavy price. In some units, the casualty rate is almost 100%. At sea, as the kamikaze onslaught continues, American planes, some crippled, some with fuel and ammunition exhausted, return to their carriers. The kamikaze, hurtling out of the gray sky like meteors, relentlessly press their attack. When they can, the Japanese go after the battleships and carriers, the carrier Enterprise, the battleship Missouri. But no capital ship will be sunk. The brunt of the attack is borne by picket ships, often stationed alone on duty far offshore. Some take as many as 5 and 6 suicide hits. Ships are turned into infernos. There is no time to rest or take cover. Gunners must remain at their posts under the relentless kamikaze attacks. Naval guns fire into the water. The water curtain diverts and obstructs oncoming planes. divine wind does not destroy the American fleet, as the Japanese claim, but it has taken its toll. Among the 26 ships sunk and 164 damaged, the Bush, Calhoun, Rodman, Laffey, Bunker Hill, Cason Young, Drexler, Hancock, Brain, Newcomb, Enterprise, Logan Victory, many more. Now another divine wind is rushing toward the beleaguered fleet. Not a kamikaze this time, but a typhoon.
In June 1945, following 3 months of kamikaze attacks, one evening's tranquil sunset was followed by some ominous clouds. What had begun, according to the meteorologists, as a weak cyclonic circulation off the Palau Islands was now heading for Okinawa at typhoon intensity.
Aboard his flagship, the Missouri, Admiral Halsey and his staff plot the course of the typhoon. The fleet is first signaled to steam east. Then, when the storm is reported further off, Halsey, in an effort to outrace it, decides to head northwest. Halsey is trying to cross the typhoon's track before it strikes. A court of inquiry will later call his decision extremely ill-advised. He is heading straight into the path of the storm. height of the storm, 100-foot waves break off the bow of the cruiser Pittsburgh. Only a thin steel bulkhead keeps the ship afloat. At the typhoon's end, 4 carriers, 3 cruisers, and 26 lighter ships have been damaged, 142 planes destroyed. Our only consolation, says Halsey, was that no ships were sunk and only 6 men were lost. On land, the torrential rains have made Okinawa an island of mud. During the bad weather, the Japanese have secretly retired from their main defense lines to new and final positions further south. Their resistance is weakening, but they will fight on for another 3 weeks. Mud is their ally against weary GIs. As the weather clears, the Americans push forward in a final effort. 30,000 Japanese are prepared to make their last stand on the southern tip of Okinawa. Their artillery is gone, but they still have machine guns, mortars, and suicidal determination. They must be dug out man by man. American loudspeakers call upon the enemy to surrender. By June 30th, after 3 months of fighting, the Japanese are finished. Along with the shattered remnants of the Japanese army, 80,000 Okinawan civilians, mostly women and children, fearfully crawl out of hiding. Some have lived underground in caves and wells for as long as 2 months. The Japanese have warned the Okinawans that they would be tortured and killed by the Americans. Instead, they are given medical attention. Almost 11,000 prisoners are taken. More than 100,000 enemy troops have been killed. Those who are captured are a ragged, beaten lot, the wreckage of the war's last battle. No other battle cost both sides so much in so short a time as did Okinawa. The Americans are battle-weary too, but they have won a tremendous victory. They have withstood the divine winds of Japan, the kamikaze, and the typhoon. American courage and endurance are symbolized in the aircraft carrier Franklin, bombed on March 19, 1945, off the coast of Japan during the pre-invasion phase of the Okinawa campaign. With 724 crewmen dead, Big Ben, the most heavily damaged ship of the war, limps home, all the way home to New York. The battle for Okinawa, says Winston Churchill, was one of the most intense in military history. The gallant fleet which fought it will forever be known as the fleet that came to stay.
By the summer of 1945, Americans had fought their way across the bloody sands of scores of Pacific islands and were now poised to attack the Japanese mainland. Even though the price of island warfare was high, a direct assault on Japan's home island seemed inevitable. But the course of the war and the course of history was changed by some secret tests in the desert at Alamogordo, New Mexico, and some top secret training by a few American airmen.
To this field, the most secret American military base of World War II, come carefully screened volunteers transferred from every command in the Army Air Forces. No one knows exactly why he's here, except that he will serve with the B-29 Super Fortresses of the 21st Bombing Command of the 20th Air Force. Beyond that, all they are told is, your job will be overseas, and it will be different. If you have to know more, ask too many questions, speculate too much, or even talk in your sleep, you'd better get out now. Formed into the completely self-contained 509th Composite Group, the new men buckle down to secret training. perfecting skills in which they already are the most proficient in the Air Force. Security is tightened. Good men are washed out and replaced by better men. Factory-perfect B-29s are remodeled, stripped of almost all defensive armament, made faster, more maneuverable. Designed to carry 10 tons of bombs, they are sent out on endless practice missions carrying only a single bomb, never the same size or weight. Every bomb run is made at better than 30,000 feet. Every drop with a visual bomb sight. After Pearl Harbor, for the first time, American land-based bombers will be within non-stop striking range of the Japanese home islands. Only 1,500 miles from Tokyo, the islands of the Marianas Group are anchored in the Pacific like a flotilla of coral aircraft carriers. Guam, Tinian, Saipan, bloodily won by Army Marine Corps amphibious assault, have been bulldozed into the world's largest airfields for the world's largest aircraft, and by men who, until now, have never even seen a B-29. From Wendover Field, Utah, the first elements of the 21st Bomber Command of the 20th Air Force arrive at Isley Field in the Marianas. They are the vanguard of the first global striking force in history, but they bring with them no illusions of swift and easy victory.
Well, the first element of the 21st Bomber Command has arrived. When we've done some more fighting, we'll do some more talking. Thank you.
But 15 planes are missing. The mysterious 509th Group is still back at Wendover Field. Leftover Field, Bob Hope called it. They're still training for an unknown assignment which may never come, because at Alamogordo, New Mexico, they will soon test a bomb which may never go off. But no one here has ever heard of uranium-235. High explosive, they do know, and jellied gasoline magnesium. And these bombs they stockpile for a war they grimly expect will go on for at least 2 more years. Finally, 7 months after the rest of the command is operational, the missing 509th Composite Group arrives at North Field on Tinian. Explanation of why they are late. No indication of what they are doing. Only a handful of men, along with Colonel Paul Tibbets Jr., their commanding officer, even knows what they might do. Assigned to the most remote area of the base, they will be completely isolated, surrounded by a security curtain, barbed wire, and a detachment of their own special MPs, which they brought with them from the States. Only a few men know that the 509th is even on Tinian. Only a few men and one woman, Tokyo Rose.
Greetings, everybody.
This is your #1 enemy, your favorite playmate, Orphan Anne of Radio Tokyo, the little sunbeam whose throat you'd like to cut. This program tonight is especially dedicated to the boys of the 509th Group, which just landed on Tinian. Oh, sorry, that's supposed to be a secret. By the way, fellas, what kept you so long? Now, why don't you all just relax and listen? All set? Okay, here's the first blow at your morale.
is not allowed to fly regular combat missions. If Tokyo Rose is right and the other groups are doing their fighting for them, it is at least on an unprecedented scale. Maximum effort raids, 100, 200, finally more than 800 B-29s to a strike, dropping thousands of tons of explosive and fire bombs on railheads, port facilities, military installations, and industrial cities. Tokyo, Nagoya, Sasebo, Aoita, Omura, Osaka, Kobe. Almost all that is above ground in 65 cities is crippled or destroyed. Nothing is left intact but Japan's fanatical determination to fight on from the last ditch behind her own rubble. Apparently aloof from the rest of World War II, the solitary 509th, still unaware of its own purpose, carries on its puzzling training schedule. Their orders, practice runs to nearby islands. Then their own private missions to Japan, always above 30,000 feet, always alone or in threes, always to drop just one bomb. And each time they must return to Tinian to face the ridicule of their fellow flyers. A poem is written in their dubious honor. Into the air their secret rose, where they are going nobody knows. Tomorrow perhaps they'll return again, and we'll never know where they've been. But take it from one who knows the score, the 509th is winning the war. But these missions are not so futile as they appear. Navigation is improved over the actual approach courses until they can take them out on a 10-cent compass and bring them back on a broken slide rule. Each of the group's 15 planes is being constantly flight tested from bomb bay to rudder bolt. Carburetors have been replaced by fuel injectors, and engines are fine-tuned to get 4 miles out of the fuel for 3. Meteorological runs acquaint them with the high-altitude winds over the Japanese coast, the strongest and most conflicting in the world. Headwinds that can hold a B-29 motionless in the air, and cross currents so complex the bombardier might have to make 5 extra corrections for each drop. But most important, these sorties condition the Japanese to the regular appearance of small flights which drop only 1 bomb and do comparatively little damage. August 5th, 1945. A word from Alamogordo. Test successful. Japan has refused a final surrender ultimatum, has pledged her 5 million-man army, still intact, to glorious suicidal resistance. If the bomb is not used, military experts have told President Truman 1 million American casualties may result from an invasion of the Japanese main islands. The decision is made. The bomb will be dropped tomorrow. For some, crews of the bombers coming and going on the big Tokyo raids, tomorrow even will be too late. Aborted takeoffs and landings take their normal operational toll of B-29s. 4 B-29s in a row crash and burn the day before the atom strike, one man is more concerned than most. Navy Captain William S. Parsons, Technical Control Officer, asks permission of the officer second in command of the Manhattan District, General Thomas Farrell, to arm the bomb in flight. A crack-up on takeoff tomorrow, he fears, might disintegrate the entire island of Tinian. He has never assembled an A-bomb before. He has 4 hours in which to learn how. The bomb has been delivered to Tinian in 4 sections, 3 by plane, 1 by the cruiser Indianapolis, sunk 4 days after she delivered her cargo. Colonel Tibbets will fly the strike plane, B-29 number 82. Its regular commander, Captain Robert Lewis, will fly as his co-pilot. These are actual pictures made during the bombing up. This is the first time they have been released. Colonel Tibbets' plane, with the bomb partially assembled and racked up, is tenderly taxied down to the remotest end of the runway. That same day, August 5th, the crews of 6 planes have been summoned to the assembly hall for briefing. Now, for the first time, they will be told why the 509th Composite Group has come to Tinian. They will hear from Colonel Tibbets why they had to practice those violent, wing-ripping 150-degree getaways each time they released a bomb.
Gentlemen, when we met at Wendover for the first time about 10 months ago, I told you at that time that I had great hopes that the mission that we were about to undertake could end the war. At the same time, I offered to release any man who felt that he could not work under the conditions of mystery and possible danger that might prevail. That offer still goes because tomorrow we're going to execute that mission. If there are any doubts existing in anyone's mind, he can leave now before any more is said. A bomb similar to the one that we're going to use was exploded in the desert in New Mexico. We have here with us tonight men who witnessed that explosion. They have photographs with them. They will endeavor to answer any questions that you may want to ask. Now, during your training period, you were called upon to do many strange things. There was a reason for all of that, because this bomb that you're going to use is not an ordinary bomb. It's not a 1,000-pounder. It's not a 10-ton blockbuster. This bomb has the strength of 20,000 tons of TNT.
Enola Gay, freshly painted on the plane, is the name of Colonel Tibbets' mother. His will be the strike plane. The great artiste and B-29 number 91 will carry observation personnel. 3 other planes will go out first and report the weather over the targets. Depending on visibility, they will strike either Hiroshima, Kokura, or Nagasaki. These are each military targets previously undamaged, so before and after results can be assessed. Captain Parsons, the only one aboard who will know the secret of the bomb assembly, has borrowed an automatic pistol. If they are shot down, he has no intention of being captured. The time is 2:40 a.m., New Year's morning of the year 1 of the nuclear age. The mission starts tensely. More than half of Enola Gay's takeoff weight is gasoline, and she needs every last foot of runway. As soon as they are airborne, work must start on final assembly of the bomb. Back at Tinian, when he practiced this, the bomb was still inert. Now Captain Parsons must arm it, set the trigger. The margin for error, 0. New York Times reporter William L. Lawrence has asked co-pilot Captain Robert Lewis to keep a flight log. It is in the form of a letter to his parents in Ridgefield Park, New Jersey. Dear Mom and Dad, Lewis writes, 4:20. The Colonel, better known as Old Bull, shows signs of a tough day with all he had to do to get this mission off. He is deserving of a few winks, so I'll have a bite to eat and look after George, the automatic pilot. 5:55 over Iwo Jima, halfway to Japan. The Enola Gay rendezvous with the great artiste and number 91. They start to climb and set a course to the northwest. The gunners clear their guns. Captain Parsons is still sweating out the bomb assembly. Only now he doesn't have much time. 7:10, Captain Lewis writes in his letter home, the undercast has begun to break up and the day is very beautiful. We are now about 2 hours from bombs away. 7:30, the Lewis letter. Captain Parsons is putting the final touches on his assembly job. We are now loaded. The bomb is now alive. It is a funny feeling knowing it is right in back of you. Knock wood. Lewis writes, we have set the automatic pilot for the last time until bombs away. "8:30, Lewis. We have reached proper altitude and have just received a radio report from the weather plane that left an hour ahead of us that our primary is our best target. So, with everything going well so far, we will make a bomb run on Hiroshima right now." "8:35, the other two planes in the flight peel off and leave the Enola Gay. What she must do alone. welder's goggles have been provided to shield the men's eyes from the bomb glare. Some of them remember to put them on. It is 9/11. At 9:16 a.m., August 6, 1945, Captain Bob Lewis writes the last entry in his letter home. Just 2 words. My God.
Hiroshima, Okinawa, Tarawa, Burma, places etched into the annals of the Second World War. There were, of course, many others: Stalingrad, Warsaw, Berlin, places which we'll be highlighting in this continuing series, the CBS Video Library of World War II. I'm Walter Cronkite.